House Minerals Committee. We appreciate everyone that's here today with us on this Friday morning. We have finished up our House bills in this committee, and now we start today with Senate files. So the slog continues. Now we restart with Senate files for the next couple of weeks. We've got some interesting ones, good bills to discuss today. But Libby, before we even get started, would you call the roll?
Representative Campbell,
Here.
Representative Knapp,
Here.
Representative Larson,
Here.
Representative Lawley,
Here.
Representative Riggins,
Here.
Representative Schmidt,
Here.
Representative Tarver,
Here.
Representative Weber,
Here.
Chairman Heiner.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Libby. Before we begin, we have a farewell. Kristen is our intern here. This is her last day. She's from Cody, Wyoming. She's been with us for 2 weeks. And even though everything she's seen, she still likes politics. So thank you, Kristen, for being here. And thank you for all you've been involved in. She's a high school student and interested in politics. And she's been here for a couple of weeks, learning a little bit about what happens as we're making bills and doing the work of the citizens of Wyoming. So hopefully we see you back in the near future, Kristen. Okay, Senate File 45. Representative Steve Johnson will present that. If you would come to the hot seat and introduce yourself, Representative.
Thank you, Chairman Heiner and committee. We worked on the gaming committee all summer.
Pull that a little close for the people that are online so they can
Okay.
hear you, Steve.
We worked in the interim on the gaming committee, and we've come up with this bill. We presented to Management Council, and they fixed a few things that we had in it. So this is a good bill, and I'd just like to tell you what's in it and how it works. So it's rulemaking for local approval and conditions and revocation, judicial review of the HHR machines and how it ties into the horse tracks, the actual racing horse tracks in the state of Wyoming. So to have a HHR machines, you have to be permitted.
Steve, what is an HHR machine?
A historic horse racing machine.
Okay, thank you.
And you'll see these coming around to all of your cities and towns, and they're pretty profitable. The intent was that these machines would allow the owners of the tracks to take some of that money and improve the horse racing in their own tracks, improve their tracks, and get a better competitive field for the horse racing, and really improve the horse racing as a whole. And I'm on ag, and this is pretty much an ag bill because we heard the Evanston track, they'll have in their 16 days of racing, they'll bring in 1,000 horses. Well, that's ag. We got to, they have to feed them hay, and vet bills, and it's really important. It provides jobs for the community. So the horse track is the cornerstone of this whole thing. The HHR machines they add to that. And this bill allows local control to allow the cities and the county commissioners to permit these HHR casinos. I'm going to call them a casino. They're I don't know what else to call them. Once they have a HHR machine in there, I think they're a casino. So it actually does clean up the permitting process and allow the cities and counties to have more control over the whole process. So like I say, that, you know, that's basically what it does is allows local control more leeway on what they're doing. Allows them to permit, allow them, if you have a permitted area and you wanted to transfer that to another facility in the same town, there's a mechanism to do that easily. So I'll be here for any questions you might have on
All
the
right,
whole
thank you,
process.
Representative Johnson. Any questions for the representative? Representative Weber, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative Johnson. On these racetracks, how many racetracks do we currently have throughout our state?
Representative.
Chairman and Representative Weber, there's currently 3 racetracks that are permitted by the state of Wyoming. There's a 4th one in the process of being built here in Laramie County. And I'm pretty excited about building a horse racing state. If we had 4 tracks racing full time, we would have, you know, higher quality horses running and it'd be an exciting sport. And so the 4th track is scheduled to open end of August. They should be ready to go. They still got 80 barns to build. So it's quite an endeavor to make a horse track that works.
Follow up?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Where are the other tracks located? What counties?
The city of Gillette, Evanston, Rock Springs, and future in Laramie County.
Any other questions for Representative Johnson? Representative Lawley, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Representative Johnson. Good to see you and thank you for bringing this bill. Could you tell us a little bit about where some of these remote sites are currently located? What counties? Maybe we just do it by county. And if you can't, there might be someone else who could answer that, but that's the question I do have.
Representative Johnson, there's a lot. I don't know if you've got that all in your head there.
Chairman and Representative Lawley, that's a trick question because I don't really know. They're everywhere. Some counties have not disallowed gaming altogether.
Okay.
And so, but they are proliferating at a huge rate. You know, they are money makers, and I'll just let go with that.
Thank you.
Coming soon to a community near you. All right. Any other questions? Representative Riggins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative.
Thank
you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative. I was looking at one of the sections regarding who has approval, and you guys established a distance of a half mile within a certain spacing to decide who gets to have some impact on it. For example, if you're less than a half mile from city limits, the city has, do they have complete rights to reject the proposal or comment? And then if it's outside that process, do they weigh the city or other
Representative.
thoughts on the matter?
Representative.
Thank you, Chairman and Representative Riggins. We wanted the cities and counties to work together. If that city proposed license place was close to a county line, we wanted the city and the counties to work together and come to an agreement on that. So.
Okay, over here, Representative Schmidt, and then we'll come back to Representative Campbell. Oh, okay, just. Oh, wow.
Hey, the sun come up.
Senator Kolb, thank you look how the light, we were illuminated with your intelligence here.
Well, good morning now.
Where were you 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago?
Thought that Representative Lyons would be here. Obviously not. I'm happy to shed some light on this. I don't know if it's brilliant light, but I can shed some light.
Well,
It is brilliant.
light is equated with knowledge, so thank you for being here because we all have light here. So as soon as he finishes up, then we'll invite you to come forward. Representative Schmidt.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Representative Johnson. Just a quick question. Through this whole process of getting to this point, have you heard any downsides or negative points of view to this legislation?
Thank you, Chairman and Representative Schmidt. The most downside that we have heard in committee is that there's no really way to regulate these machines. They're expanding at a huge rate. And you know, most people don't want these in their neighborhoods. And it's pretty easy for them to buy the neighborhood bar and put these machines in. And we're hoping that we can get some control over that. And I think naturally the market forces are gonna allow those machines to be in a cluster, much like the auto stores are. You know, if you want to go to gaming, you know, they would be closer together. They wouldn't be in the neighborhoods. And I ultimately, I think that's where this industry is going, that they'll be clustered and not everywhere.
Follow up?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, let's, thank you, Representative Johnson. Appreciate you being here. Let's bring the good senator up.
Hope I can live up to that standard, Representative.
Senator, introduce yourself and welcome to our little committee.
Good morning. I'm Senator John Kolb, representing Sweetwater County. It's District 12, which is fairly well the city that I'm in. The part that is applicable to the bill in front of you is I was the chairman of the Senate side during the interim topic that we developed this product. And we developed it with cooperation between municipalities, counties, industry, trying to find a way to bring local control back to them. Should I try to explain a little bit of the background, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, Senator.
It's a long and sordid background when I was a county commissioner, actually, and came to light that once we approved gaming in Sweetwater County, you know, the voters first approve it, then the county commission approves it. There was no way not to approve the next applicant, because the next applicant, if they had the same, you know, application criteria, we could not deny. So it was wide open. And there's been decisions up in Campbell that reiterate that with the court. So there's no mechanism besides banning it outright. There's no way to mitigate placement for the community when they say, well, we don't want them in this area. The elected officials have really, in my opinion, no recourse, and that was testified to. So it's just been approve, approve, approve. It is true that the industry is consolidating. They are moving out all these, you know, pizza parlors or whatever you might have heard. They are responding to that. So they're not deaf to this issue. However, there is no mechanism that we currently have in statute that allows them a path to denial. That bill in front of you, my fellow colleagues in the House, is the result of a couple years' work. You might recognize that bill from pretty well having a lot of similarities from the other bill that came over from your body last session. It's been improved. We had some time to work on some of the details and get buy-in and cooperation between cities, towns, and counties, and that was the goal. Come up with a solution, present it to the the task force, and we'll develop some language changes. So that's really what's in the bill. It's long. There's a lot of parts and pieces to this because there's a lot of issues about how do you deal with current permit holders and how would you deal with them. It's in renewals. There's a process that's been thought out through this bill. I feel it's complete. It addresses all the issues. It will, at the end of the day, give the communities a local control they absolutely do not have now. We had really not much of a change throughout the process on our side. So it's what we worked, and we worked it pretty hard, and we had good cooperation. You know, we had equal body from the House and Senate. We worked on it both in a pretty fair manner, I feel. So the bottom line is, I'll, take other questions, and to my own demise, I'm just remembering all this from the process, and I'll be happy to answer questions, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate the effort that your committee went through for the summer. I know that it was a heavy lift and you guys did a good job. Any questions for Senator Kolb from the committee? Representative Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being here, Senator. On the setting of days that they have to host live racing, that they're required to host so many days of live racing. Back when I come from a horse racing family, and back in the 70s and the 80s, horse racing was very popular local. The circuit was pretty much Rock Springs, Gillette, all the way down to Evanston. And they brought these historic horse racing in under the guise of parimutuel and said that it wasn't going to hurt and all that. So my concern is I think that 16 days, I think, is what you guys have it set at, is a little low. Is there any way we could bump that up to where they host, say, like 90 days of live racing? Thank you, Senator.
Senator.
Yeah, Chairman Heiner, through you, Representative Campbell, that's the Gaming Commission sets those days. I certainly, don't have any issue with having more race days. I think it's a function of other tracks and how they would overlay on each other for days. And then also there's an issue about, in our state, days you can race on, and they've tried to put as many days. I believe this is the Gaming Commission would be doing this now. So this bill doesn't contemplate that. This bill really is talking about how to approve or disapprove permitting. But to answer your question, the more precisely, I think maybe you're trying to go to this is, about the race days, is the purse money that's now been boosted into the live horse racing arena. That comes from the HHR machines, the historical horse racing machines. And that is what funds the multi-million-dollar purses we have, because the industry has exploded. So the purses have exploded. There's a sub issue I'd like to touch on a second, is the amount of percentage of that money from the HHR machines is not set in statute. There's another task force bill that'll be coming up. I shouldn't talk about other bills, but there's other things that we have to continue to work on, Representative. And it's a huge lift, and the biggest lift is trying to keep on focus on a target, because there's so many things you can get kind of waylaid with, which way. But I hope that answered that question.
Follow up, Representative Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator. Yes, I think you did, and I think I worded this poorly. My concern is this is parimutuel racing, and it was under the guise of live horse racing. So there is a thin line between gambling and parimutuel racing. If we don't have any live horse races, is this not just gambling? That's, I guess, my biggest. I'm trying to look at this from a whole bunch of different angles, and that is one of the concerns, because the more days that they actually host live horse racing, that legitimizes the fact that this is parimutuel racing and not just Vegas gambling. Thank you, Senator.
Senator.
Chairman, through you, Representative Campbell. That's a great question. It cannot exist without live horse racing. That's the bottom line. You cannot, I think there's maybe some conversation with maybe some people would like to get rid of it, but I assure you, without it, it doesn't exist. My goal is to boost live horse racing, right? That's the goal. Make the industry thrive in our state. And it's a package together. They're symbiotic. One works with the other. The HHR machines work with live horse racing, but you can't have one without the other, to be very clear.
So, Senator, question. The way this is written is the cities and municipalities will have jurisdiction if it's conducted within 1/2 mile of the city limits, but the county has jurisdiction if it's outside of the city or town. So within that 1/2 mile, it seems like we've overlapped a little bit. How do you deal with that?
Well, thank you for asking that question, Chairman Heiner. And usually say that when someone doesn't like the question, but it's extraterritorial jurisdiction. I happen to kind of versed in this one. So there's an overlap that can exist between cities and counties. The county can opt out of the extraterritorial jurisdiction if they so choose to. This is for zoning purposes. This was left in there. It's an artifact, frankly, from back when we had typhoid. And they had jurisdiction outside of the city because of the people that the county people that might come in the city. That's why that half mile's there. Excuse me, I thought I had my phone silenced. One more thing I forgot to do. So that's the half a mile. I think that I'd probably, if you want, Mr. Chairman, respectfully, that the WAM and the WCCA could probably comment about the half a mile, but that's my understanding. It's kind of an artifact, Mr. Chairman, that was felt to be harmless, and they agreed to everything you see in front of you, how it's worded. Hopefully they still agree, Mr. Chairman.
All right,
I
we may
assume.
want to flesh that a little bit because with both of them having jurisdiction, that may, within that half mile.
Oh, okay, thank you for clarification, Mr. Chairman. If I can I answer? So the area in which it happens, say it's in the city proper, the county can comment, but the final decision is made by the city. Vice versa. If it's in the county, the city can comment, but the final decision is made in the county. That's how the wording's done on there. And I think you'd probably hear testimony to
Subject
that.
to review and objection. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Thank you, Senator. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate the light you brought into our room.
Well, I don't know if it's a lot of light sometimes, Mr. Chairman, but I apologize for being late. I didn't realize we had a hole in coverage on this bill, and I'll try not to have it happen again.
All
You're
right.
just you're too efficient, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
I
Thank
didn't
you.
think it was going to come up this quick. That's really my problem, but thank you for the opportunity, and I'll stand by if you need to have any other questions.
All right. I'm grateful for the citizens that are here today. We enjoy having the comments and testimony from our citizens. And we also have some businesses, but primarily we want to hear from someone that has to catch an airplane here shortly. So Senator Representative, you're okay to let the counties and municipalities go first? Okay. Apparently the plane isn't as soon as we thought it would. So let's agencies of the government first. Any agencies of the government? If you would come forward, please. Okay. I'm not seeing any agencies of the government, of the state government. So we'll go on to these people here that are in the seats. So Mr. Ryman.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Jeremiah Riemann here on behalf of the Wyoming County Commissioners Association. Mr. Chairman, just to clean up relative to the half mile really quickly, if I can. So the bill, well, maybe I should back up before I answer that question. Right now, there's kind of a two-step process as it relates to the local element of historic horse racing and the simulcasting that you see around the state. The first element of that is that you have a vote. So this is an opt-in system. The county has to have a vote. The citizens have to decide whether they want historic horse racing to happen within the jurisdiction. As it stands today, 16 counties have had votes to approve historic horse racing. Some of those took place in the 60s, all the way up to more recent times. The most recent one was Park County had it under consideration and the voters rejected it. So Park County, you cannot have simulcasting currently, but 16 counties have approved it. There are currently simulcasting machines in 13 counties that have approved it. The 3 that don't have simulcasting machines that have approved it are Teton, Platte, and Weston counties. And I'll come back to some elements of that as we go. So that's the first step in the local process. The second element of it is, can an operator get county commissioner approval? If you go into current state statute, it's one provision, and it's actually in a definition, which makes it really awkward as it relates to these statutes. And that statute says simulcasting may be conducted off the permitted premises only if the Board of County Commissioners of the county in which such simulcasting will be conducted grants its approval. So the operators only currently today have to go to the Board of County Commissioners, even if it's going to happen in a municipality, which has brought forward an issue, as you can imagine, and the interest of the municipalities of wanting to have a part of this conversation. Now, to be clear, my counties have not had any concern with bringing the municipalities into that approval process. And so over the course of the past couple of years, as this bill has been moving forward, we've been trying to find what is the right iteration of language, because my folks are where all of the agreements stand today, and they're offering lots of services that also relate to this issue. So they maintained an interest. So what we came up with was this sort of bifurcated approach. There's no overlapping jurisdiction, to be very clear. What happens is that inside the municipality has the final say. The county commissioners can certainly offer their concerns and perspectives on the issue and give those to the municipality, but the municipality gets the final say. If it's in the unincorporated part of the county, the commissioners get the final say, but the municipality, only within that half-mile buffer of extraterritorial jurisdiction where it exists, can offer their perspectives, because obviously they're perhaps providing some services. So there's no dual permitting in that half-mile buffer if there's any miscommunication about that.
Representative Rickens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Ryman. Now they can offer their perspective. This appears that they actually can approve or disapprove of it within it wasn't? Okay. That's what I wanted to make sure.
Mr. Chairman, no, they can only offer their perspective. Ultimately, the final decision is the Board of County Commissioners in that
So
instance.
following up on that, Mr. Ryman, page 3, lines 11 through 23, this is where I'm getting confused, because it says that simulcasting conducted within the city limits, the city that governs. Outside the city limits, the county governs. But then on line 11, it starts and says, if it's conducted with within the corporate limits of the city or town, the permit or renewal application shall be subject to the review and objection by the Board of County Commissioners of the county in which the simulcasting will be conducted. And then it goes on, and then it talks about this half mile where, again, review and objection by the governing body of the city or town within that half mile buffer zone. So I'm getting confused with that paragraph right there.
Yep. Mr. Chairman, we can provide review and objection. If you go to the bottom half of that particular paragraph, it then details what has to happen at the local level relative to that review and objection, and who ultimately holds the final say. So we can object, but they get to review that subject to the terms of the full paragraph, and then can decide, okay, we've heard you and we're going to address your issue, or we've heard you and we disagree and we're going to move forward in a different direction. But the bottom half of that paragraph is really important as it relates to the overall concept that is contained in terms of that jurisdiction.
So it says timely submitted objections have to be addressed. So addressing may be just saying, we don't think that's a problem.
Correct.
Okay.
And again, if you go into the last couple of sentences on page 4, they have to put it on their public agenda. They have to consider those things, and they have to take formal action to sustain, modify, or overrule that objection. And then they would move forward.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Mayor, please.
I'm Matt Murdoch, Mayor of Town of Pinedale and President of WHAM. I do have a testimony for this, and I'll go after Ms. Raymond, but I do want to address extraterritorial jurisdiction. It used to be 1 mile. It got restricted down to ½ mile by the legislature. Primary reason had nothing to do with horse racing or anything like that. It was our roads lining up, our power lines lining up. Is there a development going on in the county or within the town nearby that it could impact us? So if the county, for example, in Suffolk County had decided to do a light industrial project right on the edge of a town, the town can now speak to it and object, but the decision, the ultimate decision is left with the county commissioner. So I could object, and the county commissioners in our county would say, okay, Mr. Mayor, what are your objections? How can we work this out? They could just say, tough luck, we're going to do it anyway. And the same way goes the other way. So there's no, it was created so that towns and counties within that buffer zone could work together and kind of work on that region. So this is just a process that we've used for years to just carry it over into this bill as well. So
Thank you,
we
Mayor.
pretty much all know how it works.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just learned today that came from typhoid. So that was interesting.
That was the first time I learned that as well, Mr.
Representative Campbell.
Just for Mike, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Reaman, just to clarify for me, so I have this right. One, you have 2 bodies, and so depending on which side of this goes, one has consulting authority, the other has actual authorization authority. Is that correct?
Mr.
Reaman?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think that's a good way of looking at it.
Thank you.
Okay, please continue.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'll get into the real meat of my testimony. We do support the legislation for a variety of reasons. I began working on this issue back in 2021, so it's been a long road to get to this particular point. And it all goes back to that one sentence in current state statute that I mentioned. And there have been a couple of court cases relative to this that have gone up to the Supreme Court. The most important one that I'll mention is one that involved Campbell County. And ultimately, that court determined that it is the Gaming Commission, not counties, that have the sole authority over the issuance, administration, and revocation of parimutuel and simulcasting permits once county commissioners give their initial approval. So if county commissioners say yes, they have no ability to revoke any permit or any approval that they've provided, which has caused some problems. Campbell County tried to revoke that. It has led to some of the counties, I mentioned there are 3 that have not authorized gaming. At least one of them does not intend to authorize gaming until this issue is resolved, because they're fearful that once they say yes to one, they're going to have to continue saying yes, and that they're not going to have the ability to regulate what's in their community. If something comes up, they're going to have to go to the Gaming Commission and ask for assistance, which, is perhaps a little bit fine. But when something's happening in your community and people are screaming, they're going to come to county commissioners. Others have tried to address this another way. They've tried to say yes, but we're going to enter into an agreement with you. And that's fine, but there's still this question of, will that agreement hold up in court if it was ever challenged? Would the court say, you only had the power to say yes, that it could exist, because there's so little verbiage about this and that we're subject to what you give us in terms of power. So having this legislation is critical for us to be a part of the process of determining what gaming should be happening within the jurisdiction. This bill goes into a lot of areas and allows us to not only have approval, we can deny, we can also revoke. But once we've given approval, it grants some powers to the operators. We can only revoke if we have good cause, and you'll see some other language to that effect. So it is good legislation, and we're happy that you're taking it up and that it is moving forward. Mr. Chairman, I will say there's one issue that remains for us. We took 8 collective issues to the Senate, and I'm happy to say that between the local governments and the operators, all of the operators, we had agreement on 6 of those issues that we were able to address, as I said, in the Senate. One of the issues of those 8, all the parties agree is not an issue for this bill and for this time. So we're setting that aside. There's one remaining issue that I have made very clear to all the parties remains of interest to us. And so I've put together an amendment that hopefully you have. Certainly the operators are aware of that particular issue, and it deals with the right of appeal on initial application. And for your interest, that starts on page 9 of the bill. And there is sort of a two, there are 2 distinct ways of appeal that are drafted in the bill. One of those is the right of appeal relative to initial application. And the other one is appeals for renewals. On page 9, provision J, which starts on line 15, the current legislation sets this bifurcated approach that says if you are a jurisdiction with gaming already, then there is a right of appeal. If you're a jurisdiction that has not authorized gaming, so if you're Teton, Platte, or Weston counties, then you can say no, and they can't come forward. But once you say yes, then the right of appeal comes into place. The reason that's a problem for us is there is actually a Sweetwater County decision that generally says that once you've said yes to one operator, you have to consider strongly saying yes to all of the other operators that might come forward. So I've been working with the parties to try and identify an approach that might be acceptable. If you go into current liquor license law on initial application, if the local jurisdiction says no, you have no right of appeal. That's certainly an option that we'd like you to consider. Option A takes that approach, but it says we'll do that in 5 years. We're going to let all the operators that are there right now have 5 years to go and seek applications in all of the communities. But after that 5-year period is up, you no longer have the right of appeal on initial application. The second one says, all right, we're going to say you have a right of appeal, but we're going to go in and make sure that the local jurisdictions have even more strong provisions for when they can deny applications on initial review. I will tell you the operators, and you're going to hear it, are split on which of these options they're agreeable to. We're okay with either. Both of them adopt provisions from the liquor license laws that are already and have been for a long time on the books, but we're just asking for some help so that when we say no on to those initial applications, that there's some additional support for us when we do that. So with that, Mr. Chairman, good bill. We just have this one remaining issue that we'd ask you to take up. And with that, I'd take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Riemann. Any others? Mayor Murdoch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I said, my name is Matt Murdoch, Mayor of Pinedale, President of WHAM. We are in support of Senate File 45, and I do want to thank the members of the committees that have worked so hard during the interim to work with us and on this bill. We appreciate the time and attention given to clarifying the framework for simulcasting permits and the respective roles of both state and local government. Simulcasting and historic horse racing terminals are now significant presence in many Wyoming communities. Of the 47 active permittees, 44 operate within municipal boundaries. That means cities and towns are directly impacted through zoning, public safety, infrastructure, law enforcement, and the broader social and economic effects of these facilities. For that reason, it is important that local government have a defined and meaningful role in the approval, renewal, and if necessary, revocation of these permits. Senate File 45 does not eliminate the Gaming Commission's authority. It preserves the commission's jurisdiction while ensuring that the community where a facility operates has a seat at the table, and that balance is important. One of the most important matters of this bill is the public notice and hearing requirement. Citizens deserve the opportunity to provide input when simulcasting facility is present and proposed and renewed in their community. There are local decisions with local consequences again. Wyoming cities and towns are not uniform, as we all know. Cultural attitudes toward gambling vary across the state. What may be acceptable in one community may not align with the priorities of another. Local control allows elected officials, locally elected officials who are directly accountable to their neighbors to weigh land use, public safety, taxation impacts, and community welfare. Zoning authority alone is not sufficient to address all the practical realities associated with this industry. This legislation appropriately allows local governments to impose reasonable conditions, such as hours of operation and placement of terminals, so long as those conditions remain within statutory limits negotiated in good faith. That flexibility is critical. It allows communities to respond to legitimate concerns while maintaining regulatory predictability for operators. As drafted, WHAM supports this legislation, and we believe it strikes a reasonable balance between state oversight and local authority while ensuring transparency and public input. Mr. Chairman, I know that Dr. Rennie from Cheyenne is also online. That is obviously a community that has been probably more directly impacted than others. He'd be willing to give testimony if he'd like, but if you have any questions, I stand for them, sir.
All right, thank you. So questions here. Representative Lawley. Then we'll come.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being here. My question really, first of all, to the good mayor, do you support the amendment that's before us, or do you have a particular option that your municipalities would prefer?
Mayor
Thank
Murdock.
you, Mr. Chairman, through you to Representative Lawley. Yes, ma'am, sorry. I should have made a comment on that. We do support both those amendments. I would prefer the second one, option B, but that's only because having greater controls, something we can protect that, especially for some of our cities that are directly impacted, but either option is acceptable.
Follow up.
Follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, this question goes to you, Mr. Raymond. I think maybe there might be inconsistency in the place you're putting this in the engrossed copy with what's on here. I'm not finding that place on 7, line 23, but I'm thinking maybe you might mean page 8, starting up in 1 and 2, but I want to be sure because I'm not really finding where that would fit there, but maybe I'm missing something. It's early. I haven't had enough coffee.
Mr. Reeman.
Yep. Mr. Chairman, Representative Lawley, I tried to put these in the right places relative to the engrossed copy yesterday. With option B, my intention was that it would go after provision or Romanet 5 on page 7. Although I will admit that if LSO believes there is a better place to insert that language, I'm perfectly fine with that approach.
Okay.
And then we would have to renumber Romanet 6 if we inserted this as number 6.
Correct.
Okay, all right, Representative Schmidt. Oh, Representative Campbell, you look the same from here. No further comments, no further questions? Yes, please.
Yeah, just, I would like to echo excuse me, Mayor Joel Highsmith, Board of Directors, Wyoming Association of Municipalities. I just like to echo what Mayor Murdock said. I'd just like to add this bill and either one of the amendments. I like Amendment B the best. Either one of them would be good. It just cleans this up. It gives guardrails. that's beneficial for both the simulcast companies and the municipalities in the county. I think it encourages the business to be more corporate partners friendly. If they actually locally, there's some penalties if they're not good corporate citizens, and that gives us an input with them, and like I said, gives them an encouragement to be good corporate citizens and work with the county and the municipalities. That's all I have.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Mayor. Representative Knapp, please.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. This is directed, well, anybody can answer, but Mr. Reed in particular. We heard from Senator Kolb that there will be future legislation coming, but having lived through that litigation in Campbell County, I feel like it is more advantageous to have less gray area, I would say, in permitting, just black or white. And I do like the idea, I've often said it should follow along with alcohol, similar alcohol permitting, because that would give you a reason for denial, even including maybe up to the number of licenses available would also be effective. But just a comment on between option A and B, that aspect of having a black and white ability for a county to stand on where litigation would be less likely. Your comments?
Mr. Reeman.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, and I do apologize to my treasurer. I have Laramie County Commissioner Gunnar Malm here. He is the treasurer of our association, and certainly they've been at the forefront of this. So I'll make sure that he's introduced. Representative Knapp, your question is a good one, astute one. I've tried to work this and model it after our liquor license laws, which as I mentioned, are very clear that on initial application, if the local jurisdiction says no, there is no right of appeal. That's the reason that I actually do agree with you that that is the better of the options. There is no gray area. The local jurisdiction, if it wants to say no, gets that authority. So I would tend to, I'm okay with either of the options, but if I had to be pushed into a corner, I would say that is the one that I would lean to. Because the other one, yes, it gives us greater deny capabilities and maybe even the ability to completely revoke for a period of time if a group of commissioners wanted to. But it still leaves available the ability for litigation to occur. And we have seen litigation in this field. And I think my members are a little weary of additional litigation and the cost of that. It has cost counties a good chunk of change in some of these instances. So I hope that helps.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
upon hearing that, I'm actually willing to change my opinion on that and go with the option recommended by the commissioners as well.
Okay, you phoned a friend and you're gonna take.
No, I'm listening to Representative Knapp and I'm hearing, and I'm like, yeah, that probably makes sense. I would like to avoid
So
litigation.
let's make a deal. You chose the curtain instead of the box. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for your testimony. We've got a lot of people in the room and we hopefully can hear from as many as want to provide testimony for us. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is Affie Ellis. I'm an attorney with a law firm called Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck. I'm here today to represent Cowboy Racing.
I'm Shane Schultz, also on behalf of, at Brownstein, also on behalf of Cowboy Racing. Like the choice color of tie, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There have been a lot of questions asked by members, so I'm happy to answer anything as they come along. But wanted to maybe start off with, there was a question about the number of race days, and I think you thought there was a total of 16 statewide. It's 16 per operator per track. Right now, Cowboy Racing is the newest entrant into the market. We've been approved for 16 race days to start this fall. There are two other racetracks, Sweetwater County and Uinta County. I think both have at least 16 days. But in Gillette, the Gaming Commission, just for the benefit of the committee's knowledge, they've only been approved or they're only running 6 race days up in Gillette this year. So Thunder Plains, as I mentioned, is the first track has been built in Wyoming in decades, and it's actually the first full-size horse racing track built in the United States since 2007. So this is a big deal. To put this in perspective, there are currently 2 leased tracks at county facilities, one in Sweetwater, one in Campbell. Each of those tracks are 5/8 of a mile, and there is one privately owned track in Evanston, and that is 7/8 of a mile. So again, Thunder Plains is a full mile. It's located 10 miles east of Cheyenne, just off of I-80. Thunder Plains and Cowboy Racing is committed to the safety of both the equine athletes and the jockeys. To date, my client has spent at least $7 million of private investment in their track. This is a tremendous opportunity to support live horse racing and the agricultural community in Southeast Wyoming. But as you know and may have heard, operating a live horse track is very expensive. So to help provide for a revenue stream for live horse racing, the legislature authorized the use of historic horse racing machines, or HHR. HHR machines look like slot machines, but the outcome of the game is actually determined by a historic horse race. These machines have provided critical revenue streams to support live horse racing. Under the current Gaming Commission rules, an operator, as I said, must operate 16 race days a calendar year in order to apply for a simulcasting permit, which allows for off-track betting, or OTBs, or the operation of a gaming facility, which contain these HHRs. So the existing approval process, for Cowboy Racing, we first approached the Laramie County Commission in October of 2023 about our plans to construct a racetrack. Cowboy Racing has gone back and forth between the State Gaming Commission and the Laramie County Commission to receive all of its necessary approvals. In total, Cowboy Racing has requested and hopes to formally request to operate fewer than 300 of these machines at 3 locations, all located within the city of Cheyenne. Cowboy Racing has received approval, as I mentioned, for our race days. In the midst of these approvals, Cowboy Racing was very concerned about an effort during last year's session, which was related to the local control gaming bill that had been moving its way through the process. Specifically, there were 2 issues in the bill that Cowboy Racing could not support. We have appreciated the extra year to work with the newly created Select Committee on Gaming, of which many of your members have served. And we have appreciated working with the other operators, Wyoming County Commissioners Association, and the Wyoming Association of Municipalities. So there are a number of significant changes. This is a 14-page bill. We want to make it clear. We want to make our positions very clear. We support Senate File 45 for allowing cities and towns, and not just the county commission, to have the site-specific approval for those facilities contained within their jurisdictions. Second, we support local control to impose reasonable conditions on operators, such as hours of operation. And there is clarifying language in Senate File 45 to that effect. Third, we understand that counties and municipalities desire to better be able to deny or revoke an approval, and this bill does provide better guidance on when that would be appropriate, and you'll see that those reasons can be found beginning on page 8. Since the legislature first authorized these machines in 2013, we are aware of 2 cases where having clarity in the statute would have been very helpful in situations involving denials or revoking approvals. The first case was in Sweetwater County, and it involved their denial of a Wyoming Downs request to open a gaming facility in Rock Springs. As you know, Wyoming Downs was located in Uinta County. That's where their track is. In that case, the district court found that the commissioner's denial was impermissibly based on economic protectionism, and thus it was arbitrary and capricious, an abuse of discretion, and it violated Wyoming's Equal Protection Clause. This is significant. Judge Couts, who served on the Supreme Court, he was the district court judge at the time. He's now serving as our AG. He authored a decision and cited a number of cases that talked about governmental decisions that create monopolies. And he said that any decisions that governments create that create monopolies or duopolies are contrary to free market principles and cannot be sustained. So this is our concern, is I know we very much understand the counties and cities' desire to control gaming, but we cannot support any bill that would allow them to essentially create a monopoly or a duopoly. The second case involved the Campbell County's revocation of an approval of Wyoming Downs and Wyoming Horse Racing's gaming facilities. In that matter, that one went to the Wyoming Supreme Court, and they held that the county commission lacked the statutory authority to revoke any of the approvals. That case was also very significant. In reviewing the briefs filed by the attorneys for both Wyoming Downs and Wyoming Horse Racing, they talked about their reliance on county approvals and their investment of millions of dollars in these facilities. So the Wyoming Supreme Court held that the counties lacked authority to revoke a permit or revoke an approval. At the heart of both of these cases are issues that we grappled with this interim, specifically issues related to something called the 100-mile rule and due process. I'll address first our due process concerns. On due process, I'll direct your attention to page 9, paragraph J, beginning on line 15. This bill would allow a new applicant to an appeal an adverse decision to a district court in the county where the application was filed with some conditions. Before we jump into that language, I want to reiterate the importance, though, of due process. Due process is a fundamental guarantee under our U.S. Constitution and the Wyoming Constitution to ensure that governments act fairly and provide notice and a hearing before depriving individuals of life, liberty, or in this case, property. We had serious concerns about last year's version of the bill because it took the approach that you just heard of. If an initial application were denied, there would be no right of appeal. Well, we're the newcomer. All of our initial applications could foreseeably be denied if a county commission or a municipality didn't like our application. So Cowboy Racing, as I mentioned, we tend to apply for fewer than 300 gaming machines at 3 terminals. They're all located within Cheyenne. I've provided you a copy of a map so you can kind of get a sense of what the lay of the land looks like. I don't think, as I've worked in this and have talked to a number of legislators, I don't think many people realize you see a lot of gaming facilities. They're really 3 initial operators, Wyoming Downs, Wyoming Horse Racing, and then 307 Horse Racing. Last year, Wyoming Downs and 307 Horse Racing announced a merger. And so we very much view their overlapping management structures as really kind of combining those 2 entities. So Cowboy Racing, viewed through that lens, would be the 3rd entrant into the market. So as I said, this map that I created for you is based off of some old numbers. It's not entirely accurate, but it just gives you a sense. For example, I have a facility shown in red located in Thermopolis. I believe that location is closed. But it gives you a general idea of where these facilities are. So we're very concerned that if a county commission or a city council could feel that maybe there are too many gaming facilities in their community, and it would be easy to say no to the newcomer, Cowboy Racing, because they could deny our approval and we would have no right of appeal. However, these same county commissioners and city councils would be less likely to deny a request to transfer or a request to grow the number of machines at an existing facility because they would be subject to judicial review. So that's the inequity we're concerned about. So along the lines, you'll also see I provided a copy of historic horse racing locations and terminal counts. You'll see on the page 1 is Wyoming Downs. They've got their numbers highlighted in red. The block that's bolded out is the Outlaw Saloon that recently closed. But you'll see that Wyoming Downs has been approved for 2,677 approved terminals. Currently, they have 1,130 machines on site. Why is there discrepancy in that? Some of these facilities, they've asked to construct large gaming facilities, so they've got a number of machines already in play, but they have plans to grow those. So that's where you see the number that have been approved doesn't always match up to what's on site currently. Going on the second page, you'll see the numbers for 307 Horse Racing. That's the outfit out of Gillette. Right now, they have been approved for 1,369 machines. They have 993 on site. So if you add those 2 numbers together, combining Wyoming Downs and Wyoming Horse Racing, that one operator has been approved for 4,046 machines. They have 2,130 on site. Going on to the third page, Wyoming Horse Racing. This is the Sweetwater County Rock Springs group. They've been approved for 3,000 terminals. They have 1,032 on site. So Cowboy Racing, we're the little guy. We literally are asking for 1/10 the number of the machines. And we just don't want to be locked in at that number if we are approved. So you also see some statewide numbers there, total 7,050 have been approved, 3,162 are actually in operation. So that's our concern, Mr. Chairman. We are very concerned about creating a distinction in 2 classes of operators, those who receive due process and those who don't. This runs afoul of procedural fairness by punishing the newcomer who has only been approved or is hoping to be approved for 3 locations and literally 1/10 the number of machines. So we understand that there's concern about the rapid growth of gaming in Wyoming, but the solution isn't to shut out competition by denying due process, because we are very concerned it would create a duopoly. I also want to address the comparison to liquor licenses, and there's an important distinction to be made. If any of you wanted to open a bar, first step is I've got to find a liquor license. There are a finite number of them. I've got to go maybe buy one on the open market. So there's no guarantee that you'll get one of those. That's why when a local government, either the county or the city, says no, there's no right of appeal because you have no guarantee to a license. These licenses are very, very different. Again, the whole purpose of allowing for HHR machines was to support live horse racing. So my client said, we're going to bring live horse racing to Laramie County, and it's going to be expensive, but we want to do it, and we think it's the right thing to do. They are now relying on being able to obtain some gaming facility approvals to provide a revenue stream so that their track is successful. If we don't have due process and say our counties and cities say we're done with gaming machines, we don't want any more of your machines, you've then denied us the revenue stream that would support our live horse racing track, which could literally put our project completely out of business. So that's been our concern, Mr. Chairman, about the due process language. I understand that Mr. Ryman provided you with two options, so I want to be very clear on our position. As we worked on this bill in the interim, we communicated with certain senators, and that's where you'll see the language that's in there for you right now. I want to reiterate this. The language that's in there right now, it's important to remember that there are 7 counties where these machines will not be popping up. So I've heard that, these are popping up all over the state. If you represent districts that are in Park, Bighorn, Washakie, Sublette, Crook, Niobrara, and Lincoln, there are no county approvals for parimutuel activity. So you will not see horse racing, and you will not see these parimutuel HHR machines. There are 3 counties that don't have the approval, Teton, Platte, and Weston, I believe. They've been approved. They have voter approval to have HHR or live horse racing, but they haven't engaged in that activity yet. And in fairness to those counties, I believe Teton made that approval in 1973 or 72. What they approved for parimutuel horse racing back then probably wasn't what they have in mind now when they see these casinos or gaming facilities. So what this bill would say is Teton County, because you haven't had parimutuel activity, you can say no, and there's no right of appeal. But the second they do open the door, then they have to open and welcome competition for all of the operators. So that bill preserves that. But take it a step further. We understand that within the city limits of Torrington doesn't want these HHR facilities. So they say no, and under the language that's currently in the bill, that is without a right of appeal. But if they open the door and they say yes to one facility, then yes, they need to make their doors open for all competitors. So that's what's in the language right now, and we support that. If, however, you feel that that isn't enough, we understand that the first option you've been presented with would give us a 5-year window to have a right of appeal, but after that, no right of appeal. We have concerns about that because I don't understand how you have due process rights one day and then you don't the next. As we've stated, these are not liquor licenses. They're not limited in number. And I'd say that that would actually discourage any new operator from wanting to come into the state to lease a track or let alone build a world-class facility, because you have no guarantee that you can open a gaming facility that would support the financial needs of your track. So I'm concerned that the first option really closes the door on future development of what these games were supposed to support, which is live horse racing. So we very much, in that regard, would support option B if you felt the need to go down that path, but we'd urge you, for the purposes of today, to stick with what's in the bill currently. Finally, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate you working with and being patient, but these issues have been very important and been very contentious in the past. But the other issue that we were concerned about last year was an effort to repeal the 100-mile rule. You'll see that this language begins on page 4 on line 12. This language is currently found in law. So what is the 100-mile rule? The concept is simple. The 100-mile rule supports the purses at the local track. Several other states have similar versions of the 100-mile rule, like Kentucky, California, and New York, and none of those have been repealed. This simply states that during race days and race times, anyone operating within 100 miles of the track has 2 options. They can either turn off their HHR machines and close their doors, or they can work to develop an agreement with the live track operator to obtain a waiver, which would allow them to continue to keep their OTBs open during race days and race times. This was an important incentive for my client in deciding whether or not they wanted to build a track. This is the incentive, or a huge incentive for anyone that wants to bring live horse racing into the state of Wyoming. It should be working in a way where the live track operator would negotiate an agreement where the OTB would offer a percentage or perhaps a flat fee to the live horse track operator to support their purses. This scenario, we believe, is a win-win for both parties. The OTPs get to keep their machines on, which generates tax revenue for local governments, and it supports the live horse racing event. This was the legislature's intent in authorizing HHR machines in 2013. As I mentioned, the 100-mile rule was an important consideration in 2021 when 307 Horse Racing first entered and decided to lease their track in Campbell County. There is extensive testimony from 307 Horse Racing on the importance of the 100-mile rule. In 2021, the legislature considered a bill to repeal the 100-mile rule, and it was defeated in the House and did not reach the Senate for consideration. In full disclosure, since that time, 307 Horse Racing has entered into a joint venture, as I mentioned, with Wyoming Downs, and their representatives have now supported repeal. Nevertheless, despite their change in position, history has shown us that the 100-mile rule has worked as an incentive to bring live horse racing to Campbell County in 2021. So Cowboy Racing, similarly, in deciding whether or not to build their tracks, studied the 100-mile rule. It understood the incentive it provided, and they made a significant business decision to the tune of millions of dollars of private investment into the state of Wyoming in reliance on that rule. So you may have heard other operators say the rule is antiquated, and we respectfully disagree. Cowboy Racing is hoping to raise the bar for horse racing in Wyoming, and the 100-mile rule will ensure its success. So it's important to keep in mind that I think it's also important to keep in mind that the other operators have also enjoyed the benefit of the 100-mile rule being in place when they first entered the market. We've had a lot of discussions about this issue during the interim, and we could debate the merits of it at length. But to be brief, we want to impress on this committee something that we talk about all the time in the legislature, which is business certainty. While some may disagree with the purpose of the 100-mile rule, whether or not it's worked, or even whether or not it's been properly implemented, all of that is beside the point. Keeping this rule in place is about business certainty. If the legislature decides it wants to repeal it, it should do it in a standalone bill, and it should not be included in this bill. So I just want to be very clear, Mr. Chairman, that our support for Senate File 45 is contingent on that language staying intact. We're happy to answer any questions, and thank you for your time and consideration of our comments.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Any questions? Representative Campbell, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Ellis. My concern, again, I'm going to fall back on, I know you rebuff us kind of the comparison with the liquor license. But my question again is the comparison between HHR and horse racing. If the primary attraction is a machine that mimics slot machine speed, when does it come? I understand that you're basing the winnings off of historic averages, but in a general horse race, there's 30 minutes between races. You have the call to the track. There is a lot of different things. People are moving about, doing things. This is lightning speed, pushing the button, bam, 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 bam. So I would like you to clarify that a little bit for me. But more importantly, my main question is, how much revenue is generated? How much of the revenue that is generated from HHR is actually funneled back into live racing? And following through with that, is that amount enough to sustain a legal track rather than just as a 6-day compliance event? Do you understand what I'm saying? The days to me are very important, because how much, like for a Wyoming bred program, does 6 days of live racing in HHR compared to a 30-day race schedule like at Wyoming Downs? Thank you.
Ms. Ellis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not here today, Mr. Chairman, to tell folks to like or dislike these machines. Your points are well taken. So just to draw a comparison, in the Indian gaming world, there are 3 classes and 3 types of gaming. One are slot machines, and a class 2 machine would be something called or they look like slot machines, but the internal mechanism of the machine says that there's a finite number of predetermined outcomes. And in Indian gaming, that matters because it depends on, it affects like whether or not the state has some regulatory authority or not. So we don't need to get in the merits of that. In Wyoming, it's a similar concept. Wyoming prohibits gambling, and those are defined as purely games of chance compared to games of skill. And back, I believe, pari-mutuel, the whole concept of this even starts in Paris in the 1800s. The whole concept of betting on a horse race is that you can look at the horse and know some handicapping information, and you are making a skilled decision on which horse you want to support. So the evolution of this is back in, I believe it was, the 1990s, 2000s, horse racing wasn't profitable. So someone looked at these machines and said, well, if we base the outcome on a horse race, it's not gambling, it's skill. And my understanding is the earliest iterations of these machines, which when they entered Wyoming in 2013, they showed members of legislators what they look like. And it was a bit of more of a video game that looked like a horse racing, an actual horse race where you get some handicapping information and then you select a horse and then you pull the lever and then an anonymous race was deciding your game. Shortly thereafter, though, I believe these machines have evolved, and now they look a lot more like slot machines, and it's a lot more instantaneous. So those decisions were all set in motion back in 2013, and Wyoming made the policy decision to go with them. So I'm not here to defend those machines. I agree with your point and your concern, but we're simply just hoping to utilize those machines to support our live horse track as the other operators have.
Okay, thank you, Representative Campbell, and then we need to move on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Ellis. I just want to qualify this. This industry is in the state of Wyoming because of live pari-mutuel racing. How does this contribute to Wyoming? I mean, does it actually support live racing? What is the numbers for your 6-day HHR compliance? Because to me, I'm sorry, but that just seems like a compliance event rather than 6 days is nothing. But how does that revenue compare to a live event to 6 days HHR as far as the Wyoming program goes? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Campbell, we're not in a great position to answer that. We are the new track being built. We are not the track up in Gillette running 6 days. We plan on running our 16 days, and we are very excited about, to your point, we're trying to elevate the sport in the state of Wyoming by building the state's first full mile track. I can tell you that my client has received national and international interest in its racetrack because it is raising the bar. But they made the business decision to build here because there will be gaming revenue, we hope, to help support that track. So when it comes to the particulars of how much our track is generating, we haven't turned on a gaming machine and we haven't offered a live horse race. We're the new entrant in the market, so those would probably be better questions asked from one of the existing operators.
Okay, Representative Lawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's hard not to call you Senator Ellis, but Affy Ellis, Miss Ellis, it's good to see you. I want to go back to the due process concerns, and particularly in the option A here. So it seems to me that the idea of no appeal itself has an opportunity for undue influence at the first stop. If just knowing there's a process of appeal, whether it's even taken, that due process there has its effects. Would you agree?
Ms. Ellis?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. And Representative Lawley, if I could just think of yourself as a business person. If you build a racetrack and you say, I want to open 3 gaming facilities and we want to open them in Cheyenne. You go to your city of Cheyenne and say, we want to put it here. And they say, we don't like the location. Maybe it's too close to an existing facility. It's too close to a school. So you say, okay, fine, we'll pick a different location. Eventually you would hope they'd say, yeah, this is great. Our concern, though, is what if we're in a different jurisdiction and, the sentiment is we don't want any no more. Okay, so what if we say, how about here? No. How about here? No. And the motivation maybe isn't so much to control the number of machines because maybe that is the desire, but the unintended effect is you've created a monopoly or a duopoly in that community. And so that's our concern about setting a time frame. If you only allow us to have due process on an initial application for 5 years, we're going to have to hurry up and ramp up our requests to get our gaming facilities built, which I don't think is what the state wants. But beyond that, what entity would say, okay, I'm going to go build a racetrack and know that I'll have at least some gaming revenue for that live track? They just don't have the business certainty. because they could never, if they were denied 10 times or 15 times, they'd never have access to the courts. So we believe having access to the courts, and if you want to give the counties and cities reasons to say no, that's fine, but we want the courts to at least be able to review it. And if you want to make the case that it creates a monopoly or duopoly, that should be preserved.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Schultz, do you have anything to add to this?
Not to belabor anything further, Mr. Chairman, I think former Senator Ellis has answered the questions well. So
All right.
happy to
Thank you
answer
for being
anything
here.
you might have.
Appreciate your comments. All right. Any other public testimony? Please come forward. We'd like to hear from you. Especially, I'm looking at all the citizens that are here. We would love to hear from you. Welcome, Marianne.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Mary Ann Shaner, and I am here on behalf of Wyoming Downs as well as 307 Horse Racing. Wyoming Downs owns a private track in Uinta County, and 307 Horse Racing runs its races at the Camplex. We are in support of Senate File 45. It's been a bill that we have worked on since 2021. We think that we have received feedback that there should be some approach to gaming and that it's expansion of gaming. We feel like that this provides a tool for local governments to have the process be more clear when you go for these facilities. I know you're running very short on time this morning. We would like to state that we support option A on the appeal issue. The reason that we support option A is because I think that it is more clear. It provides a strict standard, as has been indicated. This bill was crafted based upon the liquor license statutes. The reason that the liquor license statutes were looked at is because it does have case law history associated with that, has been implemented throughout the state of Wyoming. And so it was a good basis for this bill. So we do feel that it would be fair for all operators currently existing that they would have a period of time in which they could get their facilities in place. It certainly would not prohibit the ability for somebody that was denied with the ability to reapply to a community. So we are in strong support of option A on the right of appeal issue. Mr. Chairman, with that, I will try to keep it very brief and stand for any questions.
All right. Thank you very much. Any questions? Representative Knapp.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here today. Just going back to Representative Campbell's question, do you have any indication on what level of support in terms of revenue goes back to a track from the gaming?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Representative Knapp, I can certainly follow up with you and get you more specific information. I think that there gets to be, you see these very significant numbers with HHR machines and parimutuel wagering. I think that one thing that you need to keep in mind is that 90% of a dollar spent on HHR goes back into the pool, to the parimutuel pool. So it's being returned to the folks that are participating on these machines.
Thank you, Ms. Shanor. Any other questions? Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee. My name is Sherilyn Kaiser, and I represent Wyoming Horse Racing LLC. And I don't want to take a lot of time this morning, but I do want to begin to answer, some of your questions on the economic impact, because we have an economic impact study that we would like to share with you, and I will certainly make the copies available to you. The innovation group, it was retained by Wyoming Horse Racing, Wyoming Downs, and 307 Horse Racing, initiated a study just for to look at the economic impact and to look at, revenues going into the ag industry itself, into horse racing and to the local communities and what our total impact is. So I would like to, take this opportunity that we'll be sharing with that soon. In regard to Senate File 45, we are speaking on and in support of Senate File 45. We appreciate the opportunity to have worked with the Select Committee through the summer. As many of you may know, we have worked, for several years with Wyoming horse racing, and we know that we want to have these conversations. We want to be good neighbors. And so with this, we have always believed that it should be some local control, and we certainly support that. Looking at, we do support option A, and the reason being, talking with our clients, they don't want to be in a community that they're not wanted. And there have been times that they have gone in and applied initially for an application. They were denied, and they said, okay, and that's where they stood, on that principle. And then also, I'd like to, state for the record that we were happy to work on the amendments and with the Senate File 45. And, we stood in support of the amendments. There were ones that you're not always completely 100% happy with. And we do say that with the 100-mile rule, we would absolutely like to talk about that at another time, because we think that's an issue that we need to look at, as an industry, and then look for, a policy discussion on that. But we didn't want to impede Senate File 45 and that local control, piece of legislation as it moves forward.
All right. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Any others? Any others for public testimony? There's still 3 seats up here if anyone wants to come up and. Oh, they're going the wrong way. We must be boring them. Let's move on.
Right, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, get the green light there so we can hear you.
Gotcha.
All right.
All right,
Introduce
Mr.
yourself.
Chairman, thank you very much. My name's Jim Jonas. A couple of weeks ago, I was actually an official resident of Wyoming. I spent 38 years living in Las Vegas. So the reason why I came up today is the whole issue of gaming. Know a lot about it, obviously, in Las Vegas. So from a macro sense, I'm not trying to infringe on anybody's due process rights or anything. I just wanted to give some general information from what I've observed, not an attorney. But gaming is a great revenue stream for government. And yeah, we all need money. But one of the reasons why I moved from Nevada, now reside in Wyoming, very proud of that, by the way. This is a great state. I recommend, well, unless you're a liberal, please move to Wyoming. Okay, so I show my partisan bias on this. Got to be really careful, and I'm just talking about it from a macro sense. Gaming provides a good revenue stream for the government. However, it dries up eventually. I don't know how many of you have seen some of the stories recently about how Las Vegas in general is doing right now. It's not doing very well. So I would recommend to all of you to kind of nip this in the bud. $2 billion came into Wyoming last year off gaming. That's fine, but that comes from disposable income, and eventually that dries up. You can't count on that as a continuing revenue stream. So what I would recommend is nip this in the bud now. Don't approve anything further don't count on gaming because gaming only provides revenue to the government when the people have disposable income. Eventually that dries up. That's a very basic macro sense, but be very careful on this because Las Vegas counted on it for years and now it's drying up. And so to get more businesses into Las Vegas, what they did was they kept taxing the tourists. Well, don't worry about it, locals. We'll just pass it on to tourists and visitors. And then eventually, resort fees. Like no one wants to go to Las Vegas anymore because it's too expensive to go there. Well, 87% of the revenue that funds the Las Vegas and Nevada, not trying to be mean, but Nevada is Las Vegas, has dried up now. And now the state government is scrambling to try to fund education and everything else because they counted on this gaming revenue stream for so many years. So my position would be to just nip it in the bud now. Don't allow any more permits. So that way, at least you know where your revenue stream is coming from. And that's this just in a general sense. I know I'm stumbling over my words a little bit, but just as a government, don't count on disposable income, and that's what gaming is. And thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for your
Where
time.
were you in 2013?
Well, and Mr. Chairman, and this is why, and like I said, I'm not an attorney, and I'm very nervous right now. But I'm just trying to say that like Nevada counted on this revenue, and then in their budget, they always just kept saying, "Oh well, gaming will kick in," and then it stopped kicking in, and now they're in this terrible mess. And so, obviously, I'm not purview to budget constraints or anything like that. With Wyoming, all I'm doing here today is saying, just be careful here.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Thank you for your testimony.
Okay.
We appreciate you being here.
Okay. Thank you.
Senator Kolb.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. I realize your time has gone past probably what you're expected.
Is your mic turned on?
It is.
Okay.
Maybe I'll speak a little. I usually don't have problems people hearing me, but I'll speak to the right of appeal issue. I'd like to give some insight that's come along through the interim to help maybe some of another concept, another way of looking at it. So first, to be clear, I have no issue with the option A or B, whatever this committee would like to consider. I think it's within your privy. The question really comes down to this. You've heard a lot of things about the right to appeal. If you never had a license issued, what right are you appealing? Now, if you have a license, certainly there's a right to appeal. We went through, this is one of the sticking points that happened last year. The question comes down to, I do not believe you have a right to appeal if you never had a license issued. To be clear, that's my position. We had LSO opinion on this. So there is no right to appeal unless you had a license, just to be very clear about this. Now, I want to try to give a concept that maybe is, something that's maybe it takes a little bit of time maybe to kind of think about. But the concept is this. If we have a fixed number of folks living in a community, there is going to be a top out on the amount of machines or operators or whatever it is within that community. It will eventually get there where they'll reach a limit. And at that point, when they reach a limit, they're going to have to make a decision. And I believe it would be the free market working now, that the operators would then go to that community and say, all right, this would be my deal. I have a package of this or that. And the community would have to make a choice because eventually they will saturate. And I could argue in some places it is near saturation in the market. So it will evolve to the point where it's going to go beyond just, operators coming in and filling a void. The void's going to be filled. And at that point, it will be a free market situation. So I think it'll eventually get to exactly what we're talking about, picking operators, that would offer, in my mind, a different product than the other operator would have for that locality. So the right of appeal is really going to be the right for extra litigation. If you never had a permit or the ability to put gaming equipment in a community, the right of appeal is just going to be endless litigation. So that's why I'm in favor of option A or B. I would pick A. It's up to your decision, of course, but I felt like I should come up and try to explain the position after the things that I had learned during the interim to try to put more color to this, and I'll stand for any questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Senator. All right. We have someone online. Libby,
Mr. Chairman, we have Dr. Mark Rennie online.
please introduce him into the room.
Mr. Chairman, he denied his
Okay.
introduction.
Any others from the room that would like to provide testimony? Any other testimony? With that, we'll close public testimony. Committee, what's your pleasure? Moved by Representative Lawley. Seconded by Representative Knapp. Discussion. Do we need to go through it page by page or?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Representative Knapp, please.
at this time, I would like to offer an amendment for option A as stated, page 9, line 23. And just give a couple reasons for that. If I could move and have a second.
If we can get a second, seconded by Representative Tarver. Okay, please proceed. Representative Knapp.
Horse racing, unfortunately, gambling in general, I think in Wyoming, was permitted without truly going through the effects of what could happen with it. In other words, providing regulation. But the horse has left the barn. And this is our one opportunity to provide some clear definition, and I think with future legislation as well, to this aspect. It's a, if you've ever seen South Dakota, there's a gambling casino on every corner. And that's the reason we don't do that with alcohol. Alcohol is very highly restricted. You don't sell a drop of alcohol other than through the state, because permitting is important. The number of locations is important. And when it comes to a monopoly, it doesn't make sense to me that you're allowing 100 machines for one company and 2,000 for another and 1,000 for another. That's further monopolizing business. And so that's a restriction that gets put on even after application. Governments need a clear fallback to granting permitting. Permitting should not be an asset. Permitting should be an allowable opportunity for business that government allows and government can take away without fear of litigation. It needs to be black and white. And so that's why I chose option A. This is a highly profitable industry. The machines are becoming nowhere near connected to horse racing anymore. People are just gambling. They have no idea about the races, how it interjects with how they're gambling. And I just would like to see us take one step towards applying some boundaries and some guide rails to this industry as it continues to grow. So that's my comment.
All right, thank you, Representative Knapp. So the horse left the barn, or did the horse leave the gates? Representative Lawley, on the amendment.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Am against this amendment, and here's a few reasons why. I certainly understand why existing operators support it. That's pretty clear. I even also understand why governments may want an option that doesn't give a right of review. That all makes sense to me. because due process is grounded in the grievances the Patriots had against the Crown. The fact that they had no right to appeal, they had no due process. The idea of due process is grounded in our Constitution because it was something that the Patriots had experienced what that was like to have this, in this case, the king making decisions, and there was no ability to interact with those and no review of those. So I think, and even withstanding this idea that, you know, there may be an opinion out there, I haven't seen it, so I'm not sure if it relates to this issue or a different kind of licensing, because the outcome could be different, but the idea that there is no right to appeal if you're just making an application for a permit, I'm not really moved by that either, because this is such a constitutionally grounded issue. And option A does not do that. And what it does, though, is it really opens the door to undue influence at that county level. I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but without the right of appeal, the pressures that would be put on those county commissioners or the municipalities and how they make their decisions, knowing there was no right of appeal, kind of gives you insight from the other side of why due process is important. And so again, I can't support option A, and those are the reasons. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Representative Lawley. Any other? Representative Riggins.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Chair. I echo my colleagues' statements there, but maybe 5 years down the road, and there's probably language in here now. I was wondering, 5 years down the road, when they want to deny that application, will they be getting public information? Will they getting public comment on it? I mean, if I'm going to approve one of these amendments, it'd be B. At least it highlights what can be submitted to argue that. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any other comments? Any other comments or hearing question being called? Question. I thought I heard that. Question being called. Members were voting on the proposed amendment for option A to this Senate File 45. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Nay. That amendment fails. Any other question? Any other comments? Discussion? Any other amendments? Question being called. Members were voting on Senate File 45 with no amendments. Libby, who's calling the roll over there? Libby, would you call the roll?
Representative Campbell,
Aye.
Representative Knapp.
Aye.
Representative Larson,
Aye.
Representative Lawley,
Aye.
Representative Riggins, Representative Schmidt,
Aye.
Representative Tarver,
Aye.
Representative Weber,
Aye.
Chairman Heiner.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you have 9 ayes.
All right, thank you. That Senate File 45 has passed unanimously. Representative Johnson, I assume you will carry this on the floor? All right. Members, we have one more to deal with, but we just don't have time. So we're going to push the last bill, Senate File 1, off until Monday. There'll be top bidding on Monday. Thank you for being here. Meeting is adjourned.